Live. So I finished Heroes of Olympus, The Mark of Athena last night. So here are my final thoughts on this book before I move on to reading House of Hades. So first off, the fact that the final battle happened inside the Roman Colosseum was pretty awesome, and I think totally makes up for the fact that a couple of streams ago I had mentioned that Percy and them they went to Atlanta, and I got all excited thinking I'm like, oh, me who grew up in Atlanta, I was hoping that they were gonna have some kind of battle in the Atlanta Olympic Park where the 1996 Summer Olympics happened, and I'm like that would make too much sense, having these Olympic gods having a battle in Olympic Park. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. But the fact that the final battle of the book happened in the Roman Colosseum, I think makes up for that. So I'm no longer mad. I was mad at the time, but no longer am because I think that makes up for it. Now, all right. So this is for the all the Jason Grace fanboys out there. Okay, so if you're a fan of Jason Grace, you might want to uh, turn away right now. Skip ahead a few minutes, maybe. I don't know. So, in my opinion, it kind of occurred to me towards the end of the book. Jason Grace spends the majority of the book either knocked out or bleeding. Okay, and for those of you who haven't read the book, you might be thinking, I'm like, oh, he gets knocked out at the beginning of the book and spends the majority of the book like knocked out. That one time. No, this dude would get knocked out, and then like a couple hours later, he'll come back, and then he'll get knocked out again. A day later, he recovers. I feel like his theme song. I might be showing my age a little bit with this, but I feel like his theme song should be Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba because it was constantly like, I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get because dude, he's constantly getting knocked out, and I don't want to say he's useless, but he's not the most. Yeah, he was very useful in the previous books, but in this past book in Mark of Athena, he was kind of useless. He kept on getting his ass kicked, in my opinion. So if you're a Jason Grace fan, I'm sorry, but that's just what I think. Um. Oh, so back to the. I should have rearranged my notes in a better order. So back to the Roman Colosseum thing. After they had the final fight, and they made a Rick Rider, or Mark of Athena made a reference to the whole controversy or the whole conflicting opinions on thumbs up versus thumbs down with the Roman Colosseum, because you've probably heard that when gladiators would fight, the emperor or whoever was hosting the games would look to the crowd and see, they would have him decide, oh, a thumbs up, do we kill him? And a lot of people it used to be that this was like, no, let him live, and this was no, kill him. But then it started. Some historians start thinking it was the other way around, that this means no, save him. This means kill him. So anyway, he mentioned that conflicting opinion. So I thought that was kind of cool that he referenced that. Even today, we're still not entirely sure what that means. Okay. Oh, so at one point, Percy is reminiscing about how when he first met Luke, and that he at I think he's 17 now at this point in the series. That Percy is now almost as old as Luke was when Luke first met 11-year-old Percy. And that just kind of made me realize that, so supposedly initially Luke, when he first met Annabeth, who's also the same age as Percy, that he had a thing for her and whatnot. And a lot of people were like, oh, that's just creepy and whatnot. And later on, Rick Riordan says, oh, he loves her like a sister, not romance or anything like that. But it kind of made me realize how how creepy their age gap was, that it took basically 7 books. 7 books later, Percy is now the same age as Luke was when he first met him. And it's just, like I said, Rick Riordan, he tried to fix it by going, oh, he loves her like a sister, but whatever. So The last thing I have to mention about my thoughts on Mark of Athena, and this is probably the one thing I'm going to rant on the most, the thing I'm going to talk the longest about, is this is the infamous cliffhanger book. Okay, a lot of people say that this book ends with a cliffhanger. In fact, I have a copy of the very next book already, House of Hades, and even Rick Riordan wrote in like the first like page or so, he says, and I'm going to quote this exactly. It says, after the copyright page and everything like that, it says, "To my wonderful readers, sorry about that last cliffhanger. Well, no, not really. Ha 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 ha. But seriously, I love you guys." Okay. So even Rick Riordan says that this book ends in a cliffhanger. Now, in my personal opinion, maybe I don't fully understand the definition of a book ending in a cliffhanger, but in my opinion, this book does not end in a cliffhanger, okay? It definitely ends in an unexpected way, absolutely no doubt, but I would not say it's a cliffhanger. Now, with my content, I do my best to not give away any spoilers or anything like that. So I'm going to continue to attempt to not give away spoilers while trying to convey my point that I'm trying to make. So, towards the end of the book, a bad thing happens. I'm not going to say what it is because that'd be a spoiler, but this bad thing happens, okay? And if like this bad unexpected thing had just happened and then it was basically like, oh, roll credits, that's the end of the book, that would be a cliffhanger. However, the very next chapter, although it is short, the final chapter in this book is like 5 pages long. The very next chapter, the remaining members of the group were like, "Oh shoot, this bad thing just happened. We need to do something about it. What are we gonna do? Okay, this is our plan." You know, then they put together a plan. They're like, "Okay, now let's execute that plan," and then the book ends. So it's not a cliffhanger, in my opinion, because you know what's gonna happen next. Something's gonna be done about it. There's a plan in place that they're at least gonna attempt to carry out. So it's not like bad thing happened, roll credits. That's the end of it. So I don't think it's a cliffhanger because you have an idea of what at least is planning to happen next. Starting with this next book. So I don't see it as a cliffhanger, but maybe I'm wrong. If you want to see it as a cliffhanger, by all means do that. But that's just in my opinion. I don't think it is. There was one more thing. Oh, but I will say this though. So again, not giving away spoilers. So an unexpected, bad thing happened, and the remaining group of the party, they're going to go do something about it. They're going to go help their friends. They're going to go save their friends that got in this bad situation. And this entire time while I was reading this last chapter, I kept on thinking about the ending of the Fellowship of the Ring, the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, how the movie version of it at least ended. Because Merry and Pippin, sorry if this is spoiling The Lord of the Rings, but the movie's been out for like, 20 freaking years. You should have seen it by now. Merry and Pippin get kidnapped, and Aragorn was like, it's like, we're not going to abandon our friends to torment and death. Let's travel light. Let's hunt some orc, right? And that's why I kept thinking of it. It's like, we're not going to abandon our friends to torment and death. We're going to go man the sails and, raise hell and shit like that. So I kept on thinking about that the entire time. Now, one more thing about this, supposed, cliffhanger, because I started thinking, I'm like, okay. So the edition of the book that I own, this is I don't know what edition this version is, but this is by no means at all a first edition. Absolutely not. Okay, I don't know what edition it is, but it's not a first edition. So I'm like, okay, maybe, originally, in the first edition, second, or maybe even third edition of this book, bad situation happened again. I'm not gonna say what it is because I'm not trying to spoil nothing. But maybe in those previous editions, the bad thing happened, and that was the end of the book. No additional chapter explaining, what the plan is, what's going to happen next. Okay, so I'm like, okay, maybe it was a cliffhanger, and then later on, Rick Riordan, when he was making an updated edition, he's like, okay, I'm going to add in this last chapter to kind of soften the cliffhanger. Okay, and that's what I started thinking was happening. But if that was the case, See, I don't think that's the case, though. If that was the case, this, my copy of House of Hades, I am positive this is the most up-to-date, most current edition of the book because I bought this Father's Day weekend. What was that? 3 months ago, back in June or whatever it was. Anyway, so I bought this year at a Barnes and Noble, brand new. So this is the newest edition of House of Hades that they have. And if this was so, I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. So the fact that it still has the hey, sorry about the whole cliffhanger thing in the first couple pages tells me that I don't know if y'all see what I'm trying to get at, that I don't know. I had a thought. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to get at. That I don't know, made more sense in my head. But anyway, that's it. Those are my final thoughts on this book. I'm gonna be starting House of Hades tomorrow. I'm actually super excited about this book. I have a feeling that this is gonna be my new favorite one. Now it seems like the common consensus is Mark of Athena is like everyone's favorite as far as at least Heroes of Olympus goes. I like this one. Wasn't my favorite one. The Lost Hero is still my favorite one. And no, I'm not saying that just to be a troll. Okay, I have my reasons. Okay, and I'll get to them in a minute if you want to know. But you know, the Mark of Athena was all right. You know, like the Argo 2, seeing that in action and whatnot, that was probably my favorite aspect of it. But this was not my favorite of the series. But I have a feeling this one will be because, you know, taking place in the underworld, and I don't want to give away too much, but, you know, this is probably going to have a lot to do with like Tartarus, the underworld, and Hades, House of Hades, and whatnot. So I'm really excited for this one because that just seems like it's right up my alley. So hopefully this one will become my new favorite one. But yeah, so that's really it for me. This is probably my shortest stream yet, but that's all right. I'm doing this stream a lot later than usual. I usually try to have my streams around like 8:30, and now it's actually closer than it's almost 10 o'clock. So I think a lot of the people who usually watch my streams have gone to bed already. So if any of you are watching this after the fact, I apologize for that. That, you know, I don't have as many people watching right now. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and end this stream. It was my shortest one, but I needed to get my thoughts out there on the Mark of Athena, and I'll be starting House of Hades probably tomorrow. And just as I'm ending it, this is when everyone decides to start showing up. Hey, what's up, everyone? Anything you want to say before I end this stream that I'm now at the end of? Otherwise, yeah, so I'm going to be starting House of Hades soon. Although something I did just recently do, if you go onto my profile page and you check out my my bio, I've actually written down basically my TBR, you know, well, a shortened TBR of what books I plan on reading next. So it's like this. So next is going to be House of Hades, and then I'm going to be taking a break from that to do some horror classics because it should be about Halloween time by then, and then I'm going to switch back to this anyway. So if y'all want to know like what books I plan on reading next and in what order, you know, that's on my bio. But anyway, I've talked long enough, even though this is still my shortest stream. I'm going to go ahead and end this, but to everyone watching, thank you for watching.